Welcome to Story Scaling by podcastvideos.com, where creators share the truth behind the content, the grind, and the growth. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and family, I am Bang of podcastvideos.com. Thank you sincerely for watching these episodes. We just eclipsed 50 episodes, which is really exciting. And today I have a good brother of mine with me,
Roy Blanchard.
Roy, thanks for joining me, my guy.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You know, typically when I'm in an area, I'm one of the best dressed in the building. Not always, not always number one, but I'm one of the best dressed. And then today you just walk in and kind of put me to shame with your fit, bro. Like,
hey, man, I appreciate it.
You look great.
Thank you.
You look great.
You, man.
Roy, we met, I don't know, less than a month ago.
Yeah.
And it's immediately as we were chopping it up, bro, like you had just this presence about yourself that I thought was not only insightful, but inspirational to some degree. And I was like, man, I got to get you on the show just to, converse more and learn more about your story. So
absolutely.
Thanks for joining me, man.
I appreciate it again.
Absolutely. I put together this bio. And so this is what the streets is saying about Roy Blanchard.
Okay.
Right? This is,
hopefully I'll get there.
Yeah. Well, I think so. I did some research and, I want you to let me know, like, man, Bang, this is spot on, or, tell me if I missed some steps here.
Yeah.
It says, today's guest is Roy Blanchard, a veteran, builder, and the kind of person whose reputation is rooted in consistency, service, and the real work. Roy is currently a finance student at the University of Arkansas, and he is already making a name for himself, not just for what he's pursuing, but for what he's creating along the way. Roy is the president and founder of the University of Arkansas's Merger and Acquisitions Club, a student organization built to develop talent, teach real thinking, and create a pipeline from Fayetteville to the highest levels of finances. Starting that club was not just a resume move, it was leadership in motion. He saw a gap and built something that helps other students rise along with himself. What stands out most about Roy is who he is off the page. He is known for being a hardworking guy, a great gentleman, someone who has lived the disciplines of service and responsibility through his military background. That experience shows up in how he leads, how he learns, and how he treats people. Roy represents the kind of character you can trust in a room and the kind of momentum you can't ignore. In a world full of shortcuts and loud branding, Roy is doing it in a real way with humility, grit, and a commitment to the things that matter more than just what matters for himself. Ladies and gentlemen, Roy Blanchard.
Whew.
What you think, bro?
That's a good bio, man.
Yeah.
That's a really good bio. Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, man.
Honestly, I really do.
I mean, that's you, bro. Like, I didn't make nothing up. Like, that's who you are.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, man.
When you hear that, what stands out most to you? When, sometimes I feel like as people, we don't always hear ourselves celebrated in certain lights, or, you're so busy with your head down, you never really look up to realize. So when you read a bio or hear a bio like that, what kind of pops out to you immediately?
That's interesting because, again, I'm just like a regular college student, in my opinion. I was doing some, club work at the University of Arkansas, and also, just working really, really hard.
Sure.
I do really enjoy helping people, and that's one of the biggest joys out of my life is helping people. So, I mean, it's nice to hear because, again, you just the work you put in, a lot of it is like, you never see the immediate result of your work, or a lot of people don't like see it, so they can't really appreciate it.
Sure.
So it's kind to hear.
Yeah, man.
It's good.
There's a lot of things that drew me to you personally when we were having conversation, because there are certain things that you hold value to that most people would be able to identify with when you hear the word like hard work. But I learned very quickly hard work means something different for you than it probably does to most people. And we'll get into that. But I'm curious, Roy, tell me about just your background, your upbringing, and then we'll get to, kind of how you are today and what made you into the man that you are today. But yeah, just tell me as far back as you feel comfortable. This is now the Roy Blanchard Show.
All right. So I'm originally from Louisiana. Both sides of my family are originally from Louisiana. I was born in West Monroe, Louisiana. And then, when I was about like probably 3 or 4, my family moved to Central Arkansas, where I grew up. I
Yep.
grew up in a little town called Morrilton, Arkansas. It's like this little, town of 6,000 people or something. You're driving on the interstate. If you blink too hard, you could like pass it and not even know.
Shout out to Morrilton.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I grew up there. Went to some different schools, and my upbringing was really interesting. I didn't grow up with a lot. In Morrilton, it is more of a rural, impoverished area, and I wasn't impoverished by any means. I didn't have to worry about the lights getting cut off or anything like that. But now that I'm at the University of Arkansas, it's like, some of the kids from Texas and stuff like that would consider me like bare bones poverty by just talking to them and the way they grew up. Very, very humble beginnings. My dad, he's a college teacher at UACCM over there, the community college. My mother, she was previously an academic advisor and more in the counseling space. So I grew up there my entire life. That's a little bit about my background.
What did you think you were gonna do when you were growing up?
Honestly, I always knew I was gonna go into like business or finance. Growing up, ever since I was a child, my mother could tell you this. I've been trying to get $1 off of everybody since I, was like 3 years old.
Really?
Right? Yeah, I was always scheming with something, whether it be like a lemonade stand, selling magazines. It was just in me, to always be trying to find a way to scale, make money, when I couldn't even get a job, mowing lawns, doing something to get $1 off of somebody, for what I could do. Yeah. So,
So when you found out about like finance and banking as a profession, it was kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, that definitely came a little bit later in my life. I mean, I'm still pretty young. I'm 21. Doesn't feel like that with the Army and stuff like that. I feel a lot older, but that came a lot later. When I was 17, I joined the Army. So I've almost been here for 5 years now, which is crazy to think about. It's gone by so quickly. When I was about 17, joined the Arkansas Army National Guard. And my whole thing was, I wanted to be in the Army for the rest of my life, 30 years. I wanted to make it my full life, my full career. And I really couldn't see myself doing anything else.
Wow.
So, corporate finance kind of came in way, way later in my life.
How did you get to the Army? Like, what was the decision? You're 17, relatively young. I mean, like you said, you're 21 now, bro. Like so kind of still young, with plenty of experience. But what makes you say like, okay, I'm going to go to the service and then this is going to be my career path? Like what led you there?
So I have a really big military family. Okay. So I'm 5th generation Army. Oh, so, wow. 5 generations of, my family been in the Army, including myself. And, my younger brother, he's in the Air Force actually right now. Wow. So we have a pretty big military family. So that's always been something on my mind.
Yep.
But life for me was really, really weird during like 16, 17 because COVID happened. COVID happened when I was 15.
Okay.
I was a sophomore in high school, and then I had turned 16 like a month into COVID. So that really not ruined, but just really changed, the ending of my high school years.
Sure.
So I was in lockdown for probably a year, and it was just driving me crazy. I'm going to be honest. As most people my age who were like, sophomore, junior, senior in high school during COVID, it just really just ruined the high school experience for us, Yeah. So I was like, dude, I gotta do something.
Yeah.
I gotta do something. And I wanted to get my college paid for. Sure. My dad, he did the same thing. He was in the Louisiana National Guard. He got his college paid for by that way. So I was like, okay, well, I got a year left of high school and I really do not want to do this online stuff anymore. Yeah. So I dropped out of high school when I was 16 got my GED, and then pretty much less than 2 months after I turned 17, I joined the Army.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of what made me want to do it.
Yeah. When you talk about that COVID season of life, like explain some of the things that you were experiencing in that time, like, because it's interesting. By the time COVID happened, I was already out of college and working, you know what I mean? But you're the second person I've spoke to in recent history that was saying like, man, I was in high school during this time and it just changed everything, you know what I mean? And so like, what were some of those things that you were seeing in you know, during COVID?
Honestly, it was just, it was really strange for me. It was really, really strange. And it was also strange for my parents and grandparents too, you know, in the past 3 generations of America, we really haven't been through a pandemic like that, you know? I mean, there was like Spanish flu and stuff like that in the 20s, but we had never been through something like that before. So we were really unprepared, and you really can't be prepared for something like that.
Fair.
And it was just, it was very, very strange. You know, social isolation was creeping up on a lot of people my age, and a lot of people my age at the time, you know, flocked to social media or different things. And it was just really, really strange what kind of happened during COVID. And I feel like something in our culture shifted almost during COVID. You know, I feel like things became a lot more politicized. We couldn't, you know, there was no more middle ground where we couldn't come together as people anymore. It was either, you know, very, very far left or very, very far right. It's like almost the middle ground completely disappeared during COVID for me, you know. And that was really sad for me to see that, how, you know, politicized things have become and how we couldn't even have a middle ground anymore. That's kind of what I was seeing.
Wow, yeah.
You know?
That's interesting. I feel that. I feel the weight of that. It feels like what I say is it seems like there's no more gray area.
Yeah.
Like nuance just feels like it's hard and it doesn't really exist anymore. It's either this, only this, or this, only this. And it's like, man, what about every single thing in between? And so I resonate with that.
Yeah,
so,
and there's so much gray.
Yeah.
So
totally.
Yeah.
So you go to the service, and tell me about your experience there, like and then getting out, or
I'm still in.
Okay, you're still in. So.
I am. So, you know, going into the Army, it grows you up really, really quick.
Sure.
So I went in at 17. I did basic training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. During the fall and winter time. It was the coldest I've ever been in my entire life.
Yeah.
But really going into the Army, it really taught me just, you know, the basis of who I am and how I operate to this day, of leadership and doing what you say, integrity at an all-time high. You have to have it as a leader. You really have to have high integrity, you know, to keep yourself in check, and, you know, to also, to make others have confidence in you. Yeah. Because if no one can trust what you say or what you do behind the scenes, they're not going to trust your leadership. Yeah. It also taught me a lot of hard work, a lot of hard work. And so after basic training, I went to, you know, I was a heavy equipment operator before I got into combat arms. So I also did my job training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Gotcha. And then came home, and I was like, okay, well, I want to go active duty at this point. So to kind of get a little taste of active duty, I volunteered for a deployment. Wow. Yeah, I volunteered for a deployment. I deployed with the 39th Infantry Brigade combat team to Europe. I was in Germany, Czech Republic, and Poland, about 45 minutes off the Ukrainian border. And we trained about 7,500 Ukrainian soldiers when I was there. Wow. Yeah, so I was there from like 18 to 19. Wow. Yeah, in Europe for like over 10 months. That was something. Yeah. Yeah, so
when you look back, I got a couple questions.
Yeah, sure.
You know, was basic training the hardest thing you've done up until that point?
I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
Honestly, yeah, basic training was it was difficult. Don't get me wrong. I feel like it's a lot different than how it is now.
Sure.
You know, the Army is definitely been putting a lot of restrictions on, you know, what drill sergeants can and can't do.
Yeah.
You know, one of the famous lines from one of my drill sergeants, he was complaining about some kind of the rules that the Army was giving down about what the drill sergeants could and can't do. And he just looked at us with just the most terrifying glare that I'd ever seen before in my entire life. He said word for word, "I don't care what kind of regulation comes down. I will do whatever I want, and it'll take an act of God to demote me." And I was like, whoa. Yeah. Whoa. Okay. And that was like my first week in the Army. And that was like, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was difficult, but you know, I grew up in Morrilton. It's, you know, very, you know, not a lot of opportunities. So it wasn't like the most difficult thing I'd been through at that point. But it definitely like reinforced just, I don't know, those values that I need. And I think for all people, you know, you need. Yeah. But yeah, it was difficult though.
How much of it is a mental thing and how much of it is a physical thing?
It's a good mix of both. Okay. You know, you do have to go in, I would say physically fit, you know? So like we would be, I mean, you know, the Army, they call it smoking sessions where, you know, they pretty much work you out. And, you know, in the very, very beginning, I mean, it was hours. It was hours a day. It was morning, afternoon, night, before meals, after meals. You know, you mess up once, you're getting taken out of your bed at, you know, 9:30 at night, getting smoked in the mud outside, have to go back up, can't take a shower, sleep in your bed dirty, wake up, and then at like 4, and then PT again, you know? So, but also it is a lot of mental because, you know, you're not around your family. You know, a lot of people who are young like that, like me joining, we didn't, you know, we grew up around our families very, very close. Yeah. And then you couldn't see them. You know, you couldn't see your girlfriend. You couldn't see, you know, your people that really just kind of made you who you are. Right. So it was definitely a mental game too. Yeah. It definitely was with sleep deprivation and all that stuff. It was definitely a mental game.
Then you deploy, you volunteer for deployment.
Yeah. Yeah, that was something.
Tell me about that. Like what got you to make that decision?
I wanted to go active duty. Yeah. And you know, my big thing was I really wanted to go active duty. Yeah. And I was like, I knew a deployment was coming up, so I was like, okay, get me on. So I wasn't ready to go back to college at the time. I really wasn't. I wasn't ready. Yeah. So I wanted to go on a deployment. Yeah. And I volunteered for a deployment. So that was just it was something. You know, it grows you up very, very quick. Sure. I thought basic training was hard, but deployment was very, very difficult.
What were some of the most difficult things you encountered? Like, I know you talk about even in basic training, missing your family. I can imagine, you know, being on the whole other side of the world. I'm sure that plays into it. What else were you experiencing that was like, man, this is tougher than I thought?
Yeah, it was just being away from home. Yeah. You know, and also I feel like growing up, you see a lot of like black and white scenarios where things are one way or another, but once you're on a deployment, there's so much gray. There's so much gray going on, and especially dealing with what I was dealing with Ukrainians, there was a lot of black and gray. I mean, you know, just there was just gray everywhere. Yeah. And, you know, the media is going to tell you something. Sure. And a lot of people are going to tell you something until you get over there and you're like, this is not anything like what was being talked about on the news. Totally. So it was just so much gray and it was very hard to like deal with. Yeah. You know?
Totally. So you make a decision. When do you decide to go back to school? Like, walk me through going from deployment, and you get back, I imagine, and now it's like it's time to go to school. Walk me through that process.
So it was a little bit longer than that. So I got home from deployment. I had really no idea what I wanted to do. Yeah. Because after coming off my deployment, I knew I wanted to get out of the military. I did not want to make it my career anymore. I really didn't. And there was just a lot of things with the Army that, you know, I'm still in, so obviously I can't say like too much. But really it's just how the Army deals with people who are coming off deployments. I feel is I think they need to do a better job at it. I'm going to be honest, because, you know, we did a seminar of, you know, 2 days after we got off deployment, and a lot of it, they were just talking about how to use your, you know, military benefits, you know, on how to, you know, go back to college, or, you know, use your, you know, military benefits to get money off plane tickets. And, you know, in my mind, it's like, guys, like, you're talking to a bunch of like broke young people who are coming off deployment. And then at the very end, they did like a 30-minute to an hour seminar on, you know, reintegration in society. It's like, I really didn't like that. So after that, I kind of just decided to move my focus more to the civilian career.
Sure.
And I moved up to Bentonville with my little brother at the time. We lived in Bentonville, and decided to go into real estate.
Oh, cool.
So I got into real estate because I was just, you know, driving around the area, and, you know, my mind is like trying to get $1 off everybody I knew. I saw a lot of houses for sale, and I saw a lot of really, really nice properties. And I'm like, well, why not get into it?
What made you come to Bentonville in the first place? Did he convince you, or was that your decision?
He was going to college at the University of Arkansas.
Okay.
And he was going to be moving to Bentonville, and I was like, well, I got to get out of Morrilton. You know, this is like, there's no opportunity here.
Sure.
And I'm just going to be like stuck here for the rest of my life if I don't do something.
Yeah.
So I moved to Bentonville based on that. It was a couple days after I got off deployment where I moved in with him into our apartment in Bentonville. And then immediately from there, I started, you know, studying for my real estate licensing. And it was a lot of, that was like, I feel like that's when the grind really began.
Yeah. I think that is I know some buddies of mine that are realtors, and, you know, is that grueling? Like, is it a crazy?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard.
Yeah.
And a lot of, you know, real estate brokerages are going to tell you, you know, there's a lot of great money to be made and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And that's all true. That is very true. There's a lot of good money to be made.
Yeah.
But they don't tell you your first year is your hardest. You know, your first year is the most grueling year.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really difficult.
Yeah.
You know, because you're working off 100% commission. 100% commission.
Wow.
And, you know, for me, I was working probably over 80 hours plus a week. You know, from the time I got home from deployment until, I mean, even now I'm working about 80 hours a week. But yeah, it was just very, very grueling, and it was hard, you know, dealing with, you know, I was trying to do at least 3 to 4 open houses a week. And also, you know, doing my cold calls, prospecting, you know, things for other agents.
Yep. And
I got about like $2,000 in 6 months. Almost starved that year. So yeah, almost starved that year. But yeah, thankfully I had some money saved from deployment.
Sure.
But yeah, it was really, really challenging.
Yeah.
It really was.
So you get to a point where you're like, okay, this is not sustainable. I got to make a pivot.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. It was just like, okay, I'm going around in circles here, and I hate not making money. That's the thing I really hate. And I was like, I got to go back to college. So, you know, during the end of my real estate, I kind of got involved in commercial real estate, and I was talking to a lot of commercial real estate brokers, and I was learning more about the financial modeling side of like a commercial real estate deal, you know, where it was like, okay, you know, what's going to be the return on buying this property? And, you know, looking at all that, and I really, really enjoyed that analytical side of it.
Sure.
So, you know, after I was discovering that, and I was like, okay, well, I want to go back to college. So originally I wanted to go for economics, but, you know, looking more into economics, it's like, I got to find something that makes more money.
Yeah.
So I just looked up career. I'm like, okay, what can make me a great amount of money? What will have me, helping people? And what will have me, working on a large scale, large impact? And, what also involves like a more analytical side to business. And it was investment banking. And that's kind of how I came across investment banking. And I immediately got started in in my finance degree at, went to the community college that my dad worked at because my scores were so low I couldn't get into the University of Arkansas.
Wow.
Originally, I got rejected from the University of Arkansas, and I had to work my way up through a community college before I got to the University of Arkansas. And I was working as a retail bank teller at the time, and right after that, pretty much, I got involved in investment banking, which is crazy in itself that I actually got the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Is that a competitive field? Is that, I haven't met many investment bankers.
Yeah.
And is that because it's just not as common? Is that because it's a super difficult, job to acquire? Like,
it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
It really is. It's hyper competitive. It is probably one of the most challenging, careers in finance to one, get into and also make a career out of. It's very, very difficult. And, thankfully I got this really niche opportunity at the firm I'm currently interning with. It was about over a year ago when I first, introduced myself to them, but it was, it's extremely difficult. It really is. The career is extremely difficult. The hours are difficult. But I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love the firm I'm currently interning with. It's been a great learning experience. Absolutely, it's been great.
Talk about there's a part of you that I caught on to pretty quickly that doesn't view what most would consider failure the same way.
Yeah.
So I feel like you have a uncanny knack for pushing through even when a door seems to be shut, whether that's, you encounter some friction or some turbulence in the service, whether that's you didn't get admitted to the university the first time, but you kept knocking, you know what I mean? Like, talk about that part of you. Where does that resilience / just kind of stick to itness come from?
I have to give that one to my mom.
Okay.
Honestly, I have to give that one to my mom. My mom really, I mean, her story is absolutely amazing. She's a great woman. She grew up on the south side of Monroe and, single mother household. I mean, she's the first person in her family on her side to get her bachelor's degree.
Oh,
and
wow.
also get her master's degree.
Wow.
And I mean, she really enforced resilience in me because, one of her quotes that I have these days is like, when success is your only option, it makes it pretty easy,
Right.
So like, it doesn't matter to me what happens. And, it really doesn't. I'm going to push through and I'm going to find a way to make it happen.
Sure.
Even if it's an unconventional route.
Sure.
Like, I really don't believe in conventional thinking. I really don't. I think the most American thing is to be unconventional. Because look, if we wanted to stay conventional thinkers, we would still be owned by the British.
Right.
Nobody in there who was probably quote unquote in their right mind at the time was like, yeah, let's start a revolution and let's become our own people. That was some unconventional thinking right there, and I absolutely love that. And I've always had that my entire life because my story's not been conventional.
Sure.
You don't see many, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything. You don't see many high school dropouts who join the army, going into investment banking and doing all this stuff. So I 100% believe in unconventional thinking. And, I just learned from an early age, if you want something, you have to get it. I've never believed in a handout my entire life. Every single connection I've ever had in real estate and, corporate finance, I've had to develop myself. I've had to go out and get it. Because, no one's going to give me a handout. No one's gonna knock on my door at 8:00 in the morning wearing a suit saying, hey, I don't know you, but I would love to give you a job. That's never going to happen. And life doesn't work itself out. A lot of people have this opinion that you can't be intentional or you shouldn't be intentional because, life will just work itself out and everything will be great. That is not real.
Yeah.
That's not reality.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like a lot of people, especially from like the social media age, they have this misconception, that social media is real and that, success just happened. You see 21-year-olds, 20-year-olds driving around in Lamborghinis and Ferraris who are making a lot of money, or, they may be sponsored by some gambling app where, oh my gosh, I made $50,000 in one day. Yeah. It's all rigged on social media. Yeah. They don't tell you they have managers who are renting out the Ferraris or, setting up rigged gambling games to where they can win a lot of money so that other people can get involved in the gambling game, these online games, and lose a lot of money in return. So, a lot of people just see this quick success and they get, really bogged down when it doesn't come to them immediately. It's hard work at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful more than you want to sleep, more than you want to eat, you're going to be successful.
Yeah, man. I feel like we got to let that just breathe for a second. You know what I mean? So now we're getting to the part of the conversation that I feel like is what, made me connect with you. Because you said something that I think is profound and also troubling to me. But with my generation and even your generation, there is this maybe false sense of hope and security that things just play themselves out.
Yeah.
And I think you can hold that belief to some degree.
Yeah.
But it's extreme. You find people who really think that they can do nothing at all.
Yeah.
And everything will fall into place exactly like they want it to.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me because I'm like, oh man, we might be in trouble.
Oh yeah.
Like if
100%.
If more people start to hold that belief where it's like, you could think about getting dressed in the morning. Like if you don't get up and put your shirt on, then you not gonna have a shirt on. You know what I mean? Like at some point you have to do something.
Think about that that way.
That's kind of how my brain breaks it down. It's like, I'm all for optimism and hope.
Yeah.
And belief that things will work in your favor. Like I believe that. But it's also like, but at some point you have to do something.
Put in the work.
You got to put in the work.
Do it.
Yeah. And 100%. So where even that, like, why don't you believe that? Like, why don't you see it like everybody else in the social media age of like, man, it'll just work out. Like everything will, what was your rude awakening or your wake up call to
I don't know. I've just always had hard workers in my life.
Yeah.
I've never had people in my life who have never been hard workers. My grandfather, he was a traveling salesman for Procter & Gamble his entire career. He was a workaholic to a fault. And then eventually, as he got older, he got into addiction recovery counseling, which is what he really wanted to do with his life. And he was great at it.
Yeah.
He did that. And then my uncle, he's an extremely hard worker in Louisiana. My father, to his own, his certain way when it comes to projects and, creating his college courses. He's an extremely hard worker. My mother is one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my entire life. It's just crazy. She built herself from nothing, growing up in the south side of Monroe and then just working herself through college. She worked a full-time job, going to college full-time, no scholarships and nothing.
Crazy.
That woman had to live in her car, to make it. And she made it, and it's just like so incredible. So I've always had people in my life who have always told me hard work is important and hard work is necessary.
Yeah.
I've never had people, who were from generational wealth or anything giving me handout ever.
Yeah.
I've had to get everything, through my family and on my own. through their support.
It's interesting because, like you said, we teach this almost like smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Like social media, I have to remind myself, like, it's not a full picture of a story. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen recently people in those exact scenarios, like a guy's driving a nice car, and then the rental company will comment on the post and be like, "Did you enjoy the spin? Like, make sure you turn it back." You know what I mean? And so it's
You mind if I throw in a Zen?
no, you're
appreciate
good.
that,
Yeah,
man.
do your thing.
Like, I got to, dude. I got to.
Man, do your thing.
I just think, honestly, part of it's a psychological operation. I'm going to be honest. If we want to get into more conspiracy theory level stuff.
Come on.
So, there's a lot of lies that the rich people tell, people who are impoverished to do to keep them poor.
Sure.
And that's extremely true, whether it be, buying the newest car immediately, buying the newest phone. Don't worry about, getting your family out of debt. Don't worry about anything down the line or generationally. Think in the moment.
Yeah.
And that's a poverty mindset of living day to day, not thinking, 20 years down the line. And I feel like a lot of this mentality comes from these companies and, extremely wealthy people who don't want to see impoverished people get out of poverty.
Absolutely.
It's just like a lottery ticket. It's just like a lottery ticket. Why do they have gas stations in every single poor neighborhood with a bunch of, scratch offs and liquor? They want to get you drunk and they want to get you to, get in this moment and thinking of get rich quick, and they just want to feed that mentality. So the middle class continues to dissolve and the separation between impoverished and, rich people gets even farther.
Yeah.
I believe it's definitely part of a bigger motivation, and you're not going to make, tons of money off, some gambling app or anything like that. I mean, unless you're like doing some nerdy stuff, like studying probability for like blackjack or something and putting a lot of hours into it. No, I 100% believe it's a psychological operation from these, larger companies and stuff like that to keep the poor people in that mentality.
What's your insight or your encouragement / advice to a person who it has that way of thinking of like, man, things are just gonna come to me. I don't have to no, you got to really go out and work for it. Like, what would you say to that person that's stuck in that mindset of like,
has it worked before? That's exactly what I would say. Like, has it worked for your family in the past? Has it worked for you? What would you say to your children if they're blowing through savings and they're just sitting around on their couch playing some gambling game or, doing this or doing that, expecting life to work out? What would you think? You probably wouldn't think any better. And every person wants their children to have a better life than them. It's like, okay, whatever, fine. You want to have the mentality, you don't want to get anywhere. Do you really want your children to suffer because you have that mentality? Do you really want to blow through your savings and not leave your child anything because you want to live for today and not think about 30 years from now? You really have to think about that stuff.
Yeah.
And honestly, if they want to continue to have that mentality, it's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't, make him drink.
Right.
You can only help people so much until it's just like you gotta let go, And I love helping people. That's one of the biggest parts of myself, is especially with this club and some of the people I've helped mentored in this space. Is like, I'm gonna help you. But if you're not putting in the work and if you're wasting my time, then we got to call it quits at that point.
Yeah.
And you got to figure it out. So that's what I would say, is just, has it worked before?
Yeah.
And the answer is always no.
Yeah.
It's always no.
Yeah.
Tell
me about the club. How did we get started in mergers and acquisitions? What made you, you know what I mean, even launch that, and then talk about some of your proudest moments so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got to the University of Arkansas It was earlier this year. I'd already been interning in investment banking at my firm and mergers and acquisitions, and it's called the product crew. Mm-hmm. So, every different kind of company, I'm just purely mergers and acquisitions. It's what I've always done in the field. Mm-hmm. And I noticed there was really no club or organization or anything at the University of Arkansas that filled that need of people wanting to go into that field. You have the investment banking club, but I feel like that club is very, very generalist. I was part of it. I, was a officer in the organization, but it's very generalist. People think of investment banking as, primarily mergers and acquisitions, but investment banking is so many different things. Yeah. I mean, it's helping a company go public. It's, help facilitating the buying and selling of companies. Mm-hmm. It's, helping either raise money for a company, whether it be debt or equity. So
big picture.
It's such a large field, So I was like, okay, a lot of these clubs are going off assumptions about what the field actually is. They have no experience. They have, no idea what they're doing. And they can't give any real world insights because they don't have any. Right. And that's not like shaming anybody. It's just, I'm in a very weird position because most people my age have only had 3 months, 2 months internship. I've had a full year of doing the actual work, right. More of an associate level role. And in the firm, it's like nobody has that. So I wanted to give back to people who wanted to do that. Mm. So I started the organization early in the summer. I was building it out. That was also when I was doing my full-time internship, taking 11 hours worth of college in the summer, and also building out the club, getting probably 3 to 4 hours.
I was about to say, sleep. How many hours were you working at that time a day? Roughly, not to deter too much, but
I mean, it was probably 18 to 20 a day. Yeah. It was a horrible amount of hours. It really was, but it was almost like obsessive, the amount of hours I was working, because I knew it needed to get done. And it was just like, okay, I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a wife. I don't have a child right now. Right now is the time to be selfish and to build everything out. So I built the club out, and then, I have an excellent team who helped me with it. My second command, Spencer Gehring, and also one of the directors over there, his name is Sam Boris. I mean, those two guys have really helped build this out to more than what I could have ever dreamed it could have been.
Shout out to Spencer and Sam.
Yeah, shout out to those guys. Like, seriously. One of my guys, Sam, he recently got an offer at PNC. So he's going to be working there in their corporate banking office in Phoenix. So shout out to him. He worked really hard for that. So, this club is really getting people prepared for investment banking. And, I do a lot of things out of spite, and I really enjoy that. A lot of people say don't work out of spite. I say do work out of spite because, I've talked to some, Ivy League guys, and their opinions about people from Arkansas, I mean, a lot of it is just really gross. You've got to be honest. They see us as a flyover state. They see us as this or that. And Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, great institutions, but a lot of them only hire from Ivy League institutions. They directly go from there. And I saw Arkansas as a really underserved community.
Sure.
Really did. And it's like, we have so much talent here, and I know we can do better than them.
Yeah.
So, this organization that I've helped create and founded, it's only taken the best of the best, the people who want it. And some of my proudest moments in the organization is when I've taken a freshman in college and they knew nothing when we first started working together. And now, I mean, they're putting together financial models.
Wow.
And I mean, their knowledge is so great. I mean, their knowledge is almost out of a junior in college, what they're doing right now. And they're operating at a level that when I was their age at like 18, I wouldn't even be thinking about.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know how to do. And so I see these guys going from, not knowing anything to knowing so much. And then now they're getting at a space where they want to help other people. So, that's also one of the things about leadership is that you always have to be thinking about a replacement plan.
Yeah.
Always. Because if you don't, the organization's going to die with you. And that's been one of my biggest things is not gatekeeping information, is that I'm always setting up a plan to where I know eventually my time at the organization will come to an end. I would love to stay involved, but it's going to come to an end eventually where I can't have that much influence on it. So I got to train these guys up to where, guys and girls, to where, they're operating on my level by the time I leave, to where, we can just continuously grow, get bigger and better, and really just make Arkansas a hub for investment banking. And I think we can really, really do that. And Stevens Investment Banking has done a wonderful job at that. Shout out to Stevens.
Shout out to Stevens.
Shout out to Stevens, honestly. Stevens Investment Banking, I mean, they started in Arkansas. They are an Arkansas-based investment bank. And, I mean, they have just done such good things for the Arkansas community and Arkansas businesses and Arkansas students especially.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
That's kind of the stuff about the clubs.
I love it, bro. And I love to hear your pride in this area.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I think a lot of people do see us in a certain light. And I think some of that's cultural. I think some of that's how we're marketed by media.
I agree.
But it takes people, that are saying like, nah, we do have a different story to tell.
Absolutely.
And this is now the narrative. You know what I mean?
100%.
I think that's beautiful, man, that's your stance. What do you see, best case scenario, next 5 years for you? What happened?
Next 5 years, I would definitely like to get involved in community theater again, because I'm a big artsy guy. Most people don't know that about me. I'm a big poetry guy. I love acting.
See, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Exactly.
I wouldn't have flagged you for that. That's
what I'm saying. A lot of people just see, me as some kind of yuppie or something like that, as some dude in investment banking. But, I'm a very big artsy guy. I would love to still be involved in community theater because that's what I also grew up doing, is being involved in theater. And if, you search hard enough, you can find some relevant stuff in community theater. But, I would love to graduate college, very, very soon, get my MBA and continue to work in investment banking. That's what I really want to do. And also just find a way to where Arkansas students can just become the best they can. And just, if that's eventually setting up a foundation or, something like that for education, really just building out the Arkansas corporate finance sphere in Arkansas. That's what I really, really want to do over the next 5 years. And, on a, more personal level, probably be married, have children, start my family in the next 5 years. That's really important to me. Family is always important. So, yeah, it's kind of where I see myself in 5 years. What about you?
That's a great question, man.
Because I know you recently got married. We talked about that.
I did. Shout out to the missus. Love you. We got a lot of similar interests. I got a heart for people. I got a heart for what I would consider, I heard a man, artist out of New Orleans. His name is B. Mike. He has a community center down there where he teaches kids how to paint. And he invests a lot into the community that is under-resourced. And so what he says is you got to paint where it ain't. And so you got to just bring those resources and you know what I mean? And so definitely in the next 5 years, I would like to be curating some more community events, music, food, entertainment, just connecting people over art. I would love to be working for, this company in a different sector in 5 years, we're franchising pretty soon. And so in 5 years, hopefully.
Really?
Yeah, I'm talking about effective processes now. We're in the process.
That's awesome.
Man, it's so fun. And so hopefully by that time, we done popped up a few more of these, just in the region and beyond. And so I'll be overseeing some of that. Making a lot more music like you. I'm a poet, I'm a writer. And so like, you know, and I do music. And so making a lot more artwork and being able to travel and see some different things off of that artwork and figure out the line between creativity and commerce. I think it's interesting when you are a creative, it is, you know, you got the music business, and so music and art is one thing and business is one thing, and they typically don't marry well.
Yeah.
But the most impactful and successful artists figure out how to stay true and hold the integrity of their artwork.
Yeah.
While, you know, being able to make commerce. And so right now I'm in the middle of what does that look like, along with the social media age that we talked about. How do you show up authentically and, you know, honor yourself while still putting yourself out there? So I know that's high level, not super practical steps, but in 5 years, the hope is to be doing a lot of what I'm doing now, just on a larger scale.
You can do it.
Yeah. We're going to do it.
You're going to do it. Exactly.
We're going to revisit this combo in 5 years
100%.
and, you know, and look back on, you know, what we've been able to accomplish.
Absolutely, man. No, you got this, dude.
I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, I believe in you, dude.
Thanks, man.
100%.
I feel that, and it's reciprocated, bro. Like I'm looking forward to continuing this dialogue and continuing this friendship and just, you know, seeing what happens for both of us. But thank you for joining us today, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
You know, if anybody, you mind if I do a little?
Please, I was just about to say where we can follow you,
that.
like anything you need to shout out, drop it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, if you're a person interested in investment banking, if you're a college student, you know, at UCA, University of Arkansas, wherever you may be at in Arkansas, hit me up on LinkedIn. I would really be happy to have any conversations with you if you're interested in joining the Army. You know, whether it be officer level, enlisted level, I'd love to give my insights and help whatever I can. But yeah, I'm always down for a coffee chat or just a conversation on investment banking, or, you know, if you need somebody to give you some motivation or anything like that on, you come from a rural area like myself and you need someone who is just want to give you some motivation or even talk to about that stuff, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Absolutely.
Roy, you the man, brother.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate this. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.